Be sure to send us any of your questions on Twitter at AnotherJagsPod or email us at AnotherJagsPodcast@gmail.com.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Another Jags Podcast. This is Season 1, Episode 2. Glad to have y'all with us tonight. If this is your first time listening, we just want to let you know that this is a podcast about Jaguars football brought to you by Jaguars fans. Those of us that are going to be weighing in tonight are all Jacksonville natives, born and raised, and we are diehard Jags fans. We're not media. We don't pretend to be, and we speak from the heart, and I hope to have a lot of fun. So with us tonight, as always, is Joey. Joey, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, man.
Good. Jason, how you doing?
Yo, doing good.
Good. And we have our sound tech, of course, the genius, Robert. How you doing, Robert?
Doing good.
Awesome. We're going to be talking about a few things tonight, but before we get to those things, we want to let you know that we are on Twitter at Another Jags Pod. We are on Instagram at Another Jags Podcast, and also on Facebook at Another Jags Podcast. You can find us at any of those social media outlets. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Combine that just wrapped up. Also, free agency that's going to be starting here in just a few days. But what we want to start off first is the big storyline of the Jaguars right now, what everyone seems to be talking about, and that is Allen Robinson. What are the Jags going to do with Allen Robinson? We saw yesterday that they decided not to franchise tag him. So before we go any further, let's talk about that. Do you guys think it was the right move for the Jags to not franchise Allen Robinson? Joey, we'll start with you.
Well, James, I mean, I'm not sure anybody could have really seen that coming beforehand.
Yeah, except for you and your one lucky guess.
Well,
that is going to be the only lucky guess of this entire podcast and the history of it. You got it. You got it out of the way week one.
Yeah, hey, one for possible. One, not bad.
Yeah,
quite possible.
It's all downhill from here. Really, you're not needed anymore. You can go.
Retire while you're on top.
Right.
I mean, I've heard like a football whisperer. There's been comments, things like that. But like I said, the clock's right twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the right call, and I think obviously they agree because he didn't get franchised. A contract negotiation is going to happen, but is it going to work out? I really don't think so. And I think part of it that I didn't mention last time around is I'm not sure that A-Rob likes Blake at all, and I'm not sure Blake likes A-Rob. I mean, you see like the chemistry between a quarterback and his receiver. You never see them hanging out. You never see them talking about each other. You base this off what?
One incomplete pass in training camp?
No, I'm basing this off of when the knee blew out, Blake went over and actually slapped him in the hurt knee. If you go back and watch that footage, it's dead on. Go back and watch it.
Conspiracy theory. 9/11 was an inside job.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough, but yeah. I think there's no love there. Personally.
Have fun being a Raven.
Exactly, and Flacco it'll be his best job ever.
So you think that if I'm hearing you correctly, Mr. Football Whisperer, you think that the Jags didn't franchise tag Allen Robinson because when he got hurt, Blake Bortles, speaking code to upper management, tapped him on his hurt knee, signifying, I don't like him, don't re-sign him.
No, that would be a super stretch. I think they didn't franchise tag him because everything I said last week, as far as the money goes and what else they could do with that. I think the reason they're not going to work out a contract is because A-Rob does not want to be there because him and Blake don't like each other.
Okay. Let's just move on to Jason.
I'm hesitant to try to read between the lines on this because they could sign him to a deal tomorrow, and we have no idea what they're doing. So I could see them, I could see him signing a deal with us. I could see him testing himself on the free agent market. I mean, he's considered by a lot of people to be the number one free agent available coming off of an ACL.
Wide receiver,
yes. Yeah. Number one receiver coming off of an ACL, which is I've never seen before, which is crazy.
Now, does that speak to his ability or to the lack of wide receiver talent available?
I definitely think the lack of talent. But if you're his agent, there's no benefit in signing with Jacksonville before seeing what another team will give you. Unless you're, sold out all in on Jacksonville, which he's probably not, then his agent is probably telling him, let's see what other people will give you, and the Jaguars want you, they'll match. That would be a smart career move for him. And, right now makes him kind of look like a bad guy, but in 3 months from now, if we match an offer, who cares? He's on the team. So I think his agent's probably telling him just to relax, maximize the money he can get because he's 24 years old. The longevity of an NFL player isn't long. This may be one of the only windows he has to make as much money as he can. So I think his agent's probably just telling him to see what he can get on the market. And if he can't get more than $12, $13 million, he probably signs with Jacksonville. if someone reaches that needs a wide receiver, I could see San Francisco reaching. I could see, maybe another team like the Jets reaching for this kind of pair with a quarterback they just signed. Because if a front office signs a quarterback to a big contract, the first thing they have to do is sign a receiver to show the franchise and the fans that they're all in on the quarterback.
Right.
So you're getting a guy, I mean, if you look at the free agents that are available, number one, most people say Allen Robinson, and then one of the next highest one is Marquise Lee. So there's not a lot of free agents out there that are really stunning. I mean, Sammy Watkins, Paul Richardson, Mike Wallace, Dante Moncrief, none of those people really do anything for me.
No. Well, and kind of to your point, why I understand if the Jags don't want to franchise him, but why not transition tag him? Why wouldn't they do that? That's the one thing in all of this that confuses me. If you don't know what a transition tag is, basically it means the team can still has rights to you and can match any offer that another team offers a player. We tried to do that with Alex Mack a couple years ago, center out of Cleveland, that ended up going to Atlanta the next year. So why didn't the Jags do that? Why wouldn't they have just transition tagged him? This to me just seems like there's no way he's staying at all, based on how they've gone about everything. Is there any ideas why they wouldn't do that?
I mean, we still don't have any proof that they won't transition tag Marquise Lee. I mean, they could do that and try to match any offer he gets. In their eyes, he may be a better receiver than Allen Robinson. I mean, he led the team in catches this year. He didn't have as many yards as Keelan Cole, but he had more catches. So it could possibly, again, I don't want to try to read what they're going to do, but they could possibly transition tag Marquise Lee.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's it. They just want to transition tag someone else.
Yeah, I mean, and Lee would be a good guy for that. You could probably get that as a much less transition tag. Sounds good.
But who really knows?
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, I just, okay, so I guess the next phase is then, do you think that the Jags will come to an agreement and ultimately sign A-Rob to an extension? Joe, you've already said.
I think absolutely not.
No.
I mean, looking at the list of like the top paid wide receivers right now, I mean, what he's going to demand, and I think what he's going to get from some team that has money to give, it's not worth it. I mean, if he got that franchise tag, there'd be 3 receivers above him. DeAndre Hopkins and Antonio Brown. Actually, Antonio Brown's on here twice. So
there's 2 Antonio Browns in the league?
Well, he's on here for 2 reasons. I'm not real sure why.
No.
But he's not even comparable to those 2 guys. You want to pay him those guys money?
No, but that's who's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL right now?
And I disagree.
A guy who has started 7 games.
And I disagree with that as well. I mean, that's the start of a big problem.
No, but that's kind of how the league works, isn't it? I mean, you just it kind of depends on timing a lot.
That's not how the Patriots do it.
That's one team though that has Tom Brady. We don't have Tom Brady or Bill Belichick. If we did, then it wouldn't be an issue. But you can't. You have to throw that there. I actually heard a rumor today that the Patriots are thinking about trading Gronkowski.
I heard that as well. Pretty interesting.
Isn't there a rumor that he's like retiring too?
Yeah, he's going to be in Hollywood.
You never know with these.
I think he's opening his own cruise ship line, is what I heard.
All right, Jason, what do you think? Do you think that they're going to re-sign him?
I think that there's a lot of variables that go into it. The biggest one being what his highest offer is from another team. I don't see him taking a hometown discount.
No.
But I could see us matching up to 14, 15 million. I mean, we're starting to get, nickel and diamond here between millions, which we don't have, not
right.
our money. But, it depends on, it's hard to know how they value these guys. I mean, they could honestly think between Keelan Cole, Marquise Lee, and D.D. Westbrook and Allen Hurns that they're set. I mean, they could think that. I mean, us as a fan base, we don't think that. But, I mean, those are, 4 guys that would be a number 1 or a number 2 on most other teams. I mean, Keelan Cole maybe not a number 2 on teams, but he had a really productive year for us. I mean, he led the team in yards. I think he had 750 yards, over 750 yards. I mean, something crazy that from a rookie.
Right.
And rookies never explode like that, and rookies never really seem to get worse. They seem to get better. So, I mean, they could just put in their eggs in the basket of, we got a good young talent, maybe draft a guy, maybe bring in a cheap guy that does what Allen Robinson does, like Dante Moncrief, or
who did not have a good year.
Did not have a good year, but 64 passes, 733 yards. That's not terrible.
No, but compared to the year before,
Right.
I think there was a drop off.
But as far as he's a big guy, He's fast. That's kind of what Robinson was for us. We need that down the field threat that Blake can throw jump balls to. So I could see a guy like him coming in for half the price and doing what Allen Robinson does, and maybe drafting a guy too, and see how it goes. Doesn't give us a lot of depth, but we have some pretty decent receivers given their age.
Right. So let me ask you this: if you're Allen Robinson, are you getting a little worried about what your market value may actually be if a team like the Jaguars, who has a quarterback that needs good receivers to help him, who is completely depleted on the wide receiver front in the way most people see them, okay? Are you kind of maybe getting a little worried that if a team like Jacksonville doesn't want to sign you, franchise you, or maybe sign you to a lucrative contract that other teams may not too? Or do you think regardless he's going to get a good chunk of change?
I think Allen Robinson's kind of driving this decision. I mean, I do think that there's dissension between him and Blake. I think that he was very frustrated the year before. He made those comments about the fans. I think that he knows what he can get. And I think his agent's driving him, saying what you can get. I think you can get a ton of money outside the market. Don't sign with the Jags. They're a run-first team. You don't like Bortles. He's not a good quarterback.
He touched your knee.
Exactly. Yeah. You whacked your knee. It wasn't a touch. It was a whack. Watch the video. I'm telling you, man.
Hashtag never forget.
Exactly. I don't think he wants to be there.
Okay. I mean, that's not the first time I've heard that. So
I think he's just chasing money. Can't blame him.
No.
Like I say, he's 24. He has one shot at free agency, more than likely.
And he's got a reconstructed knee. I mean, what if that goes out again? This is his chance to be, paid for life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think the Jaguars view him as we're not going to pay him. I think, like Joey said, he's coming off of a knee injury. So the Jaguars are just like, we probably don't value you where other teams value. And that's typical for a free agent, an unrestricted free agent. So,
and not to mention they are a run-first team. I mean, I understand you. Even for a run-first team, you still need to throw the ball occasionally. But if their mentality really is we're going to run the ball, then they're not going to pay. So I think he's gone. I'll be shocked if in a couple weeks he's a Jaguar still. I just don't see it in the cards at all.
I mean, in all honesty, I'm amazed that it actually came to fruition. I mean, I was kind of saying that tongue in cheek with a little bit of it could happen. And then it came to fruition. I mean, at this point, I agree, man. If they sign him, he would have taken a big pay cut. Is the only way that's happening.
Yeah, and I would not have said that a week ago.
No.
I actually called you crazy
you
a
did.
week ago, even the thought of it. And now I'm saying...
Well, you didn't call the thought crazy. You actually called me crazy.
I did. I called you crazy, and I stand by that.
All right, fair enough.
We're not we are a run-first team, but there's a very high probability that any receiver we have, if they get on, I mean, they're going to have over 1,000-yard reception season, though. So I don't think that's going to keep them necessarily. I mean, we still threw the ball a lot this season. Now granted, that's also because of Leonard Fournette being, not super healthy and getting in a little trouble for a game. But even then, he did really well, but his production value was up and down to me throughout the season when he wasn't there.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of that did have to do with injury, and then also just because they were loading the box with 8,000 guys to stop Fournette, and challenge Blake, and that's where we go. You come circle around again and say, well, you got to have someone for Blake to throw it to open up the running game, and so it's a very it's interesting. I'm not sure. It's a lot of questions.
Well, I think another thing, the emergence of tight ends and running backs as receivers has really kind of dropped the value of these wide receivers. You don't even see a typical wide receiver anymore. A Randy Moss, a Jerry Rice, these big outside guys are valuable, but who are getting the catches in the yards? These inside slot guys, these tight ends. These running backs. Fournette had a pretty decent year receiving this year, and so. He's an underrated receiver. Corey Grant is an underrated receiver. And if the Jaguars are looking at these guys and like, all right, we have a lot of options. We have a lot of diversity amongst our pass catchers. We don't need to go out and spend more than $15 million on a wide receiver. Like I said, especially given how young we are everywhere on offense.
That's a good point. And think about this. Of the 4 teams that played in both conference championships, what team had the most notable wide receiver or who was the most recognizable, or whatever word you want to use, biggest name wide receiver of the 4 teams that played? Can you even name one off the top of your head?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the most talented would be Alshon Jeffrey. He probably had the biggest influence on.
And he signed a 1-year prove it contract.
Right.
And then you have, Brandon Cooks, I guess, but he, I'd really be Gronk, I would think, but he's not technically a wide receiver. So that's a great point. The league, you don't need these dominant wide receivers. What did Calvin Johnson ever get done in Detroit? Now, obviously, that wasn't all on him because Detroit was a dumpster fire, but still. Joey, you got to say something.
I do. I agree you don't need the dominant receiver, but I do think you need the go-to guy. And I'm just curious who that's going to be for Blake. Corey Grant in the playoffs, when they opened that up to him, that dude blazes and out of the backfield. That was awesome. I think that he's got to have somebody as the outlet when things go wrong, and I think that's a tight end. So I'm very curious to see what they do there.
Well, we'll talk about that in one of our later segments. We're going to take a break real quick. I want to say before we move on to the combine, I should have said this at the beginning of the segment, but if my voice sounds super weird tonight, it's because I'm coming off being sick, and my voice is still on its way back.
He's faking it.
Yeah, so I'm trying my best. But anyway, we're going to come back and talk about the combine here next on another Jags podcast. Welcome, everyone, back to Another Jags podcast. Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter at Another Jags Pod, on Instagram and Facebook at Another Jags Podcast. We're going to talk about the Combine now, and we're going to go straight to our Combine expert, Jason. Going to give us a recap on who stood out, who didn't, whose stock rose, and whose stock fell, and who maybe the Jaguars are going to be eyeing based on Combine results, all that stuff.
Yeah, it was really awesome this year to get to actually go to the Combine.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, next year, though. Once we sell out, you're going.
Yeah, that's true. But no, it was good. A lot of performers. Me, I would just watch the Jaguars position. So outside of tight end and offensive line, I really didn't watch too much. So when it comes to the later round players, it's shooting fish in a barrel for Dave Caldwell. But for me, not so good.
Right.
But
when we get paid, then we'll start paying more attention.
Yeah, there we go. But for our first picks, I think most people agree it's going to be tight end or offensive lineman. A name that's coming up on a lot of boards is Mike Gesicki from Penn State, who graded out really well at the Combine. He ran the fastest 40 time at the Combine at 4.54. He did 22 reps of 225 on the.
Is that who Dion said can run?
I didn't see that. Maybe.
I think he did.
Maybe. I'd be surprised if he was talking about him, but yeah, he's from his tape, I watched a little bit of him, and he's really has really good body control, a really good jump ball tight end. The quarterback's throwing the ball, especially on the boundary and the sidelines, and he's really good at keeping his feet in bounds and adjusting his body to the ball, which is what you look for. You look for an NFL player. So he's jumping up a lot of players' draft boards. Jalen Samuels from NC State. A nice big tight end who's also really fast, ran a 4.54 40, 223 pounds, nice size for a tight end. And then finally, Hayden Hurst, the tight end from South Carolina, who's a local from Jacksonville. I went to Bowles High School. He ran a 4.67 40, and he had a really good broad jump of 120 inches, which is, I think, one of the top broad jumps for whatever you feel that worth is.
Yeah.
He's 6'4", 250, so he's a big boy. Playing that tight end spot. So there's a chance that Mike Gesicki is gone before we get to pick there. Dallas Goedert, there's a chance he'll be gone too.
How was his Combine? I didn't really hear much about him because a lot of mock drafts had him going to the Jags.
Yeah, well, he had a lot of hype going into the draft just because of his athleticism and of his size and the way he can block. He didn't have the greatest Combine. He did really good on the bench press. He benched 23 reps, which is one of the highest for offensive linemen. So that's good. But besides his size at 6'5", 225, and his good route running, he's not exactly the greatest blocker. I don't know how good his feet are. I haven't watched a lot on Goddard. He does play a lot of games. He stays healthy, which can be said. But then there's the big elephant in the room that he went to South Dakota State and played in the Missouri Valley Conference. So, but you can find tight ends from small schools. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
But speaking of this, I wanted to ask you guys, pose a question to you guys. All right, does the combine do anything for you? And what I mean by that is, like, if you watch a guy's film and he balls out on the college level, but then he doesn't do as good at the combine as the other players, does that make you think less of him? So how much stock do you put into the combine?
Joey?
You know, last week I was saying that I didn't think of the combine as anything other than a bunch of stats, and really it all mattered to how they played in college and how they did against good opponents. And you know, that's great for the bigger schools. The smaller schools, however, I do think the combine has some importance. I think that, you know, you can tell a lot about a player by his speed, strength, and, you know, jumping ability, obviously. But more so, my take on the combine this year was I like the side stories. Like, I'm really intrigued by the stuff that comes out about players that you probably didn't know or maybe not knew beforehand. And there's a bunch of those. I mean, you've got like Shaq from UCF, you know, the guy with that's missing the hand. I mean, he obviously threw up sick combine numbers. He bench pressed more than linemen. He ran faster than a lot of, you know, wide receivers or running backs. But outside of that, like, his brother plays for Seattle. Before he ran the 40, his brother called him and said, "Hey, I don't think you can run that under 4.4." And that guy obviously takes everything in life as a challenge, and it motivated him to run it faster than a 4.4. I mean, it's awesome. He got it done. A couple other things from that. You've got Telvin calling him out after that. Telvin saying, "I'm the fastest linebacker in the league. Any day, any place, I'll do it." I think that's kind of the cool stuff. Is like what comes out outside of the numbers.
Okay. To actually answer Jason's question.
So with the player, would your opinion would you not draft a player because he did poor at the combine?
I'm going to say this, and I'm going to answer your question on
Thank you.
whatever Joey just told us. The side story.
We got to hear about the one-armed linebacker from UCF.
When Joey watches American Ninja Warrior, he doesn't watch them do the course. He just wants to watch the pieces on them at home.
And you're absolutely correct. Avon loves that show, and that's my favorite part. Hey, that's what I wanted to talk about with the combine. All right, guys?
This is what the combine is to me. The combine, for those players that are already highly rated, they have a chance to then solidify themselves even more so than they were going into it. Guys, I think about like Derwin James, okay? He was already, going to be a top 15 pick in the draft, but his performance solidified that even more. Then you have players who maybe were on the fringe that do better at the combine, and then it kind of puts a magnifying glass for the scouts to then go back and look at the film. But I don't think it makes any team decide to draft a player based on combine performance. I think your combine performance brings you back to the tape of what they did on the field, if that makes sense. And so is it important to a player? Yes. Does it make a scout, I think, put their final stamp because they ran a great, 40? No, I don't think so. I think what they see on tape in games with pads on is what matters completely. The combine is just a means to get the scouts' eyes on that tape. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you're absolutely right. I just think of players like John Ross, who got drafted by the Bengals, was it like 9 or 10 because of his 40 time, and he was terrible. So, but you're right. It probably did take them back to the tape, and they probably made a decision based on that.
What about a guy like Rosen, who comes from a little bit of a smaller school, but everybody's been talking about since the combine? I mean, they're saying that he's bombing it. He's like the smartest guy at the combine. Like, he's like nailed all the tests. Like, he could master any offense. And they're like Aaron Rodgers comparisons are what they're throwing out there as far as like what his ball looks like.
What about it?
That's the
question.
Exactly. I mean, like
you mean what does he have to gain?
I think his stock rose a lot. I think that he was probably not going to be one of the top guys.
He went down, and
he's pretty slow.
In McShay's,
we did learn he's pretty slow, which does not help him.
But again, from the numbers, it says he's slow. But from the eye test, like everybody's talking about him, like he's like this is the best looking guy out there throwing the ball.
Yeah, he did get a lot of. I think most people thought Josh Allen apparently is some sort of Tom Brady out there throwing the ball. Everyone says he was the best passer they've seen in years. But, Josh Rosen has gotten a lot of hype. Didn't have a great 40 time, 4.9. Didn't have a great vertical jump, 31 inches. So, but he does have the intangibles, 6'4", 226. But he just seems like another guy that knows football really well. but
and can talk.
And
well spoken.
And it's just another guy. But you never know. You never know with quarterbacks. I mean, that's something we do know is that you never know who's going to be good.
That's going to be fun this year in the draft is to watch where they go without any concern of our own. You know what I mean? Like just to see, hey, what's going to happen? I guess maybe you could.
Well, if Josh Rosen's there in the second round.
If Josh Rosen's there in the first round, the Jags better take him.
Yeah. Well, you never know with quarterbacks. We've seen it with years where it's a big domino effect and they all go early, and then we see years where like no one drafts any, and you're like, man, when's Johnny Manziel going to get drafted? And, we thought he was going to be a top 10 pick, and then he's fallen and fallen and fallen. So you never know.
We had 2 teams last year, though, jump up to get 2. We had Deshaun Watson, Houston, and the Kansas City Chiefs taking
Patrick Mahomes. Yeah.
So we'll see. It'll be. I personally, we'll be talking about this a lot in the weeks to come, but I don't think there's going to be a quarterback of the top tier ones, at least, including Lamar Jackson, who will be available by the time the Jags pick at 29. But that's for another day.
All right, let me throw another combine question at y'all, because this is another question that came up on the NFL Network through the combine. There's some players who have been accused over the years of not giving it their all for the sake of their safety, right? A player who gets this tag is Tarvaris McFadden from Florida State. He's a 6'2", 200-pound defensive back from Fort Lauderdale, went to American Heritage. He came out of high school as a 5-star, number 3 corner in the country, number 7 player in Florida. He just came out as a stud. I mean, he had the makings of Jalen Ramsey written all over him when he came out. But the big knock on him is that he never stuck his head in there for tackles. He played scared because he didn't want to get hurt for the NFL. Does that give you any reservations about drafting him?
For McFadden, in McFadden's case, that does not give me reservations about drafting him. How McFadden played gives me reservations because if I'm watching college football, which I don't watch a lot of it, FSU is my favorite team to root for, and he was doing things this past season that had nothing to do with him trying to not get hurt. I mean, he was making boneheaded plays. I mean, he cost them the game against Miami. Gave that and Charlie Kelly, but that's beside the point. But so I wouldn't draft him because I don't think he was just lived up to the hype, and that happens a lot in recruiting. A lot of 5-star guys aren't 5-star players. They just don't turn out to be. But if you think back to like a guy like Ronald Darby, for instance, that was kind of the knock on him as well, that he played to not get hurt, and then he goes in the NFL and absolutely, kills it. He's one of the best ever. So would it stop me from drafting them? No, it wouldn't, because look, they're not getting money in the NCAA. They're not making any money for the billions of dollars that the NCAA is making. And if they, are looking to change their entire family's life, and they find themselves and their team is 4-2 or 4-3 after a few games, and they know they're out of the title, then they have to start looking ahead. And I don't necessarily, that's not what I would do or saying it's the right thing to do or whatever, but it wouldn't stop me from drafting them. But really what I want to know is their side story. What about their brother?
How can you decipher, though, if they are pulling off or if they're just playing scared, though? Like, how can you truly decipher if they are not playing full out in hopes to get into the NFL, or they're just not on the same level as everyone else is?
Well, when you drop punt after punt on he did so many boneheaded things. I can't.
Okay,
I don't have a list in front of me.
All right, so first, to address your question, Robert, is if a NFL scout shows him a play and it's like, what are you doing here? You didn't even try to make the tackle, and he goes, oh, I didn't want to get hurt. It's a big Leonard Fournette coming downhill. I'm not trying to get hurt. I got to buy my mom a house, right? And to answer your question, or to answer your comment, James, yes, he didn't have a great year last year, but the year before, he had 8 interceptions. So he's shown the ability, and I don't want to make this a Tarvaris McFadden podcast, but the guy has shown that he has a nose for the ball. And this is a guy you may be able to get in a later round.
Think about this too. Who was he playing on the opposite side of the field with 2 years ago?
He's had one of the most stacked secondaries around him than probably anyone's had in a while. Mm-hmm. But it's still, getting 8 interceptions is good, especially in college
it's great.
football. And I mean, that's the type of guy that you can find in the later rounds. But you're right. I just wonder, does it give you any reservation if you notice the guy's not giving it at all? Because what if it's his contract year in the NFL, and he's like, okay, I don't want to get hurt because I got a big paycheck coming up. It's a tough question.
If a GM or a scout or someone point blank asked him, or anybody for that matter, why didn't you go full throttle on this? And they answer, because I was afraid of getting hurt. And they actually are that blunt in saying it. My reservation would then be, this guy's a moron because he just told me this, not because he actually, held up. And I think when guys are playing to not get hurt, they're playing at 80%, or 85%. They're not playing at 50%. McFadden, you look at his 40 time was not good.
Yeah, but we say the same thing about quarterbacks that lower their shoulder versus step out of bounds. Obviously, it's a different position, but that they're making the calculated decision to keep their health rather than go for an few extra yards. So could you use that same logic for a defensive back who's coming one-on-one downhill with a 220-pound running back, and you weigh 200 pounds and you're standing still and they're coming full steam ahead, and you just go for a little cheap cut tackle and you totally whiff because you have a future where you're going to make money ahead.
But at the same time, that's your position. As a quarterback, your position is to be able to manage the game and get out of bounds because you're not half the size of most of those guys out there. As a DB, your whole position is to stop that guy from coming down the field.
I would definitely have to agree. That's a really tough call. If I was the one making the call, I would probably not want to draft somebody like that in the first round or the first 10 picks maybe, because a lot to risk on somebody like that. But then you look at somebody like Clowney. His last year he definitely took off the majority of the plays, and he's turned out to be a pretty good pro. So, that's hard. It'd have to come down.
There's guys that don't play in entire games, bowl games, for that reason. And a quarterback's job is to be a game manager, but in college you're not getting paid.
Right.
And if you get hurt in college, then that's your livelihood gone.
And I understand bowl games completely, though, because, it absolutely means nothing at that point in time, especially if you're coming out into the draft. At that point in time, you didn't make it to the national championship. You have nothing to play for at that point in time. You're coming out to the draft. Now you're about to make money. You don't want to get hurt on that very last game.
You're going to start seeing that more and more and more as that trend continues.
Who was it? The tight end from Michigan, Butt,
Yeah.
played in the bowl game. Might have ruined his career.
Yeah. Did he ever play this season? At all?
I don't
know he got
know that
drafted,
information.
but I don't think he did. If he did, I don't even know who he got drafted by.
It's because there's way too many bowl games, though. You don't need that many.
Well, they just don't mean anything, and they've checked out at that point. But it's an interesting question. I don't know. There's guys that, like Joey said, Clowney, and others. Darby is another one. He really didn't do much at FSU his last year, and then he arguably probably, I don't know if he did, but he should have won Defensive Rookie of the Year when he came out. He was unreal. But yeah, I don't know. I think it just. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying.
I think it's a calculated decision, for the player. But I think overall it's kind of a selfish decision because it is a team sport, and you've got team members relying on you for things, and that tells a lot about a player if they're willing to mail it in when everybody else is working their butt off. So I think overall I would probably say no, but there are those one-offs, on both sides of the equation. It's tough.
Yeah, but at the same time, you don't know what's being said in the locker room. If you go to these top-tier schools, these guys that are they're expecting to go to the NFL, not hoping. That's that is their expectation. And the guys that are behind them, second, third string, or whatever, they get it because they're waiting their turn so they can get in as well. It's a machine. The college player uses the NCAA, and the NCAA uses the college player. Obviously, one is in a higher advantage than the other, for sure. I'm not saying it's equal at all. But, I think a lot of these guys are, saying absolutely, you got a future to think about and go make your money.
I also do think it matters on what series BMW was bought for you, equates to your level of effort.
True.
That definitely matters.
And how much money is in the trunk.
Sure.
All right, so final draft combine question for you guys. All right, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of the Jaguars general manager.
Done.
All right, and you have just acquired the #1 overall pick in this year's draft. given the needs of the Jaguars, could you justify taking Quentin Nelson, guard out of Notre Dame, with the number 1 overall pick?
Oh, well, not having any time to think about it, this is a tough one. Well, you don't take running back because you just did that last year, and you're good on that front. We are. I mean, you can always argue taking a quarterback, but I'm going to say no to that as well. Not because I think Blake is amazing. I just don't think any of the quarterbacks in this draft are worthy of a number 1 draft pick. Even though I'm sure one of them will get picked number 1 overall. But in this hypothetical, there's no top-tier wide receiver that just stands out amongst the rest. Maybe Ridley at most, but I would not call him number 1, not even top 10 talent. No true tight end. So I'm thinking just offensively now. And then you go to the defensive side. Fitzpatrick would be tempting to add. Then you can get rid of Colvin, and it's not as big of a hit, obviously. Derwin James, safety was a bit of an issue this past year for the Jags. That would be a huge upgrade. But yeah, I can see that happening. I could possibly take a guard number 1 overall. Look, the times are changing. All right, the times are changing.
For me, personally, it's tight end Goddard.
You like Goddard that much?
I really think we, at this point in time, need to shore up our get some receivers in there. Especially, I mean, for me, that all relies on if we re-sign A-Rob or not. If we re-sign him, no, I wouldn't waste the pick. But if we don't, I think we got to put someone else in there. Otherwise, I think Landry will come down. I think we could definitely use some help on our linebackers right now.
It's definitely an interesting question. I mean, I've literally not thought about that 1 second because it's the first time in years we haven't had to. Yeah. If I knew Goddard's name wasn't Godert, which was what I thought it was, you got to keep on keeping on. I might have taken him, but it's hard because Barkley I think is a beast in the league, but we've got Fournette, so I mean there's literally no reason for that. But I would have to go quarterback. I mean, I've been the biggest Bortles proponent there is, but depth you can't knock it. I mean, I think it would be good to have a young guy in there to push him or to train up for the next 2 or 3 years if he doesn't work out. I mean, I think you'd have to go that route.
Yeah, I'm sure you would, because that makes the most sense. I'm sure every GM. Well, I don't know if every GM. Who knows what Cleveland's going to do? We don't know.
I was going to say Cleveland would be the team that would trade us the pick.
Yeah, absolutely.
For like a 12-pack of Bud.
Yeah,
man, I think you take him, man. Because like you were saying, times are changing. The NFL, the offensive line is one of the most important positions, and if Blake has time, he's a good quarterback.
Yeah.
And the times that he made bad decisions,
most quarterbacks are.
Most quarterbacks are. You're right. So I mean, you shore up the offensive line. I mean, everything coming out about this Quentin Nelson guy is that he's just an absolute grizzly bear of a player. And what really blows my mind is the first 2 linemen projected to be taken in the draft are both from Notre Dame. Like, where was Notre Dame this year with apparently this like all-American offensive line with the number 1 guard and number 1 offensive tackle? I mean, you would think Notre Dame should have won the national championship. I mean, if you have a good line, you can do anything. I think Tremaine Edwards, you can make an argument taking linebacker Roquan Smith from Georgia, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not sold on these quarterbacks. If you're taking a quarterback number 1 overall, you're basically having to gamble on Josh Allen, a guy from Wyoming. And I just am not comfortable with that.
Right, who had a terrible completion percentage.
Do you think Orlando Brown falls down in the draft after? I mean, he had a pretty poor lifting performance during the combine himself. I mean, he's big, but 14 is super low still.
I mean, there's people on both sides of the fence that are like, watch his film, he'll be sold, and then people are like, well, if you can't bench as much as a one-armed man, you probably shouldn't be playing offensive line in the NFL. But I am in the camp of watch the film. A lot of people vouch for his physical ability. They say he has great feet, that he can move well. His kick step and pass coverage is really good. He takes good angles, doesn't get beat around the edge very much, even though he is slow, very slow. I mean, it looked like he was walking his 40-yard dash. I think it was a combination of it. It just looked like he didn't even want to be at the combine, which is what made his draft stock fall.
Yeah. Here's what I don't understand. It is perfectly acceptable in the right draft with the right player to draft a left tackle number one overall. But a guard, suddenly you're insane to even think that. And those guards are blocking the Malik Jacksons of the world, sometimes the Calais Campbells, depending on the formation. I mean, they're going up against legit guys that can totally mess up the whole line of scrimmage. But so why is there such a discrepancy in value between tackle and guard? I understand with the blind side and all that stuff, but to me, is it really that much less valuable of a position to think that you would be insane to draft a guard if this guard from Notre Dame is really that good? To still say you would be crazy to even think about that, and you know.
I mean, I think that's a bit of a change in the guard. I mean, the outside rusher. I have no idea.
See, we're talking about the position guard. And you said changing.
Let's go back to that because that wasn't even intentional. All right, rewind, repeat. All right, I think it's a bit of a change in the guard. The exterior rusher used to be it, and I think right now that with the way how strong people are, the interior rusher is much more valuable. Absolutely. I mean, it's old school versus new school, and the way the defenses are set up, that matters more now.
Yeah, and I would also point to the fact that most of our running scheme requires the guards to pull, which means to basically take 2 drop steps back and then run outside shoulder of the tackle and then hook a block and clear a lane for the running back, which, if you remember Luke Jokel getting absolutely blown up on a pull block a couple years ago, Doug Marrone likes to run those.
One?
Yeah, I was going to say that one time.
Well, we all know that. I forgot who it was against that one time. Yeah. That was just nasty, and then he got blown up. But pulling guards, if you're a guard that can pull and get to the edge and then pin that guy inside and get his outside shoulder, I mean, Fournette could bust those 25-mile-an-hour runs all day.
So if Orlando Brown does fall down to us, do you still go guard or do you take him?
Robert likes Brown.
I think you would evaluate.
Or Orlando. Is that your favorite city?
Yeah.
I think you evaluate whether he's higher on your board or a tight end. But I think those are the 2 positions that you absolutely have to address in the first round because those are our glaring weaknesses this year. And if the offense can get it together, if you can get that third down percentage from 33% up to 39 or 40, I mean, we may have a Super Bowl team if we stay healthy. So I think continuing to bolster the offensive line, a receiving tight end that can get open, especially on the boundary, man. If you can get a tight end that can get and run out routes or those corner routes, I mean, that just opens up the middle of the field so much for these inside receivers. I mean, you got these defensive backs are playing these shell coverages on the Jaguars and keeping everything inside of them with no threat of someone stretching the field on them. If you get a tight end like Goddard or Gesicki from Penn State, I mean, now all of a sudden you're busting these coverage shells, and it's going to make D.D. Westbrook, Keelan Cole, Allen Hurns, if he's healthy, it's going to give them so much more space, and it's going to make them so much better players.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's it for our combine discussion. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to talk about free agency.
Be sure to send us any of your questions on Twitter at AnotherJagsPod or email us at AnotherJagsPodcast@gmail.com.
All right, welcome back to the third and final installment of Another Jags Podcast. Just again, a reminder, you can find us on Twitter at AnotherJagsPod and on Instagram and Facebook at Another Jags Podcast. We're going to finish our second episode of Season 1 tonight talking about free agency, which begins next week. Hopefully we're going to have some news to talk about in terms of new players on the team starting next week. It is a different role for the Jags. We're not going to be the big spenders. I don't think we're going to be wearing the crown of off-season champs this year unless Caldwell can really spin some magic and sign A-Rob and Colvin. That would I think would make us off-season champs again, and but I don't know if we see that happening. But I'll pose this question to y'all: is there anyone out there, anyone of notoriety, any name that you see that you think the Jags are going to land in these next few days?
I've said from the very first one that I'm a big fan of Trey Burton. I think he'd be a big pickup.
The very first one
was last week.
Okay, our only other one.
Way back in the day, Trey Burton. So I think he'd be a big pickup for a little bit of cash, comparably, and he'd be a good fit. But you alluded to it earlier, that Gronk is not happy in New England, and New England's not happy with him. I mean, if there's some way that TC has some connections that saw that beforehand, and you're looking at the fact they're making these moves with Bortles and Robinson and all this because of that, and they're going to go for him, I mean, dang.
Yeah.
That would be like life-changing.
Yeah, that would be unreal.
It'd be amazing.
I think Justin Pugh is a big one for us too right now. If we can somehow pull him in, he's proven a track record as a tackle. I think he'd be a great addition for us. Also, I mean, obviously tight end. I don't know. I just don't see us pulling in. Definitely don't. I really don't see us pulling in Gronk. I think he stays. I think they talk him into staying another year. But I think we have our best shot with Justin Pugh, and if we can pull him in, I think that would do absolute wonders for us. We hit on the combine a little bit about picking up a guard. We could still do that, but I really think it could sure us up for picking up another spot like a tight end if we don't land one in free agency.
Sammy Watkins. Anyone think Sammy Watkins is going to draw any interest from the Jags if they don't sign Allen Robinson?
No.
No, none at all?
I mean, I think it'd be similar money, and, I mean, he's had injuries. His foot was hurt for an entire year. I mean, he had decent numbers, but I think the money you'd have to pay for him would be about the same situation. You might as well just re-sign A-Rob.
Yeah, if they're not signing A-Rob at this point in time, I don't really see many receivers at all that they're going to pay that much money for.
Keelan Cole and Marquise Lee both were more productive last year than Sammy Watkins.
Wow.
So I would rather run into the season with those two guys than bring in Sammy Watkins. I think Justin Pugh is interesting because there's a lot of rumors that the Giants are pretty much close to a done deal with the former Panthers offensive guard Andrew Norwell, which would sum up their hole on the offensive line. It would make Justin Pugh a free agent. I think he's the most realistic free agent, like we talked about last podcast, given his history with Marone and Coughlin. I think I was big on Trey Burton, but he's becoming a really hot commodity, and I think he's going to get snatched up by another team before he looks at Jacksonville. So if we look at the next best-looking tight ends, you're looking at maybe Tyler Eifert, who's injured, and Austin Seferian-Jenkins from the Jets, which, as funny as that sounds, if you think about it for a second, it may not be a bad fit in Jacksonville. You may not have to pay him a lot of money. He's young. He's a good receiving tight end. He did pretty well against the Jaguars, which I know isn't big for anything, but I wouldn't mind seeing a guy like that. Cameron Brate from the Buccaneers, guys like that. I could see. I think you could draft a tight end guard and sign a tight end guard in free agency. I don't see a reason why you can't do both of those things. But I agree with you, James. I don't think we're going to be the offseason champs this year.
No, that's a good thing. It's a very good thing.
Absolutely.
I think what we're going to see more is the players that we're accustomed to seeing as Jaguars, not anymore. My questions going into free agency aren't necessarily who we're going to sign. I would love to see Trey Burton. I'm kind of with Jason. I don't think it's going to happen. He's got his ring. He can go chase the money now. He doesn't have to go to a team that's going to win now, in other words. But are they going to keep Puslesny? What about Chad Henne? No one's talking about Henne. I know. Is he under one more?
I'm glad no one's talking about Chad Henne.
Yeah, me too. That's a good thing.
Agreed.
But at the same time, like who's Blake's backup going to be going into next year? If does that mean they absolutely draft a quarterback? And before you say yes, remember last year at this time, everyone in Jags media and Jags fandom swore up and down that they were going to draft a quarterback, and they didn't. So it's not exactly a foregone conclusion that that's going to happen. So then the question does become, who's the backup going to be? So I'm more interested in just kind of see the little things, what they're going to do, and maybe where Colvin goes. I'd love to see him stay. I think that would be huge, and maybe like Joey was saying last week. Maybe they get that deal done because they're not interested in Robinson. I don't know.
He's the guy I could see taking a hometown discount because it genuinely looks like he likes playing with those guys on defense, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
I think that'd be great.
Well, they make him better. I mean, for sure. He had a great year. I'm not convinced that he would be, a cover corner, but as a nickel corner, he's one of the best in the league without a doubt.
I mean, I definitely hope so. And I really think tight end's kind of that value position. I mean, Burton might be getting, these offers that are, kicking it up. But, I mean, the highest paid tight end in the league last year was $10 million, and that was Jimmy Graham. I mean, Kelsey at 9.
Who is also a free agent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're not paying him. He's kind of mailing it in. He's getting older. But point being is, like, do you want to pay Travis Kelsey $9 million a year for his production, or do you want to pay A-Rob $16 million a year for his production? Possibly. I mean, that is value.
Yeah, that's true. It's totally different than the few years past, and I am absolutely okay with that. But still, it'll be a fun couple days.
Would you pick up a Josh McCown or a Ryan Fitzpatrick for free agency at this point in time as a backup if we're cutting Chad Henne? I mean, I think either one of them would be better than Henne at this point in time if you can get them for the right money. Or would that cause too much turmoil in the fan base thinking that they're going to possibly replace Bortles the first bad game he has?
I don't think bringing in either of those guys puts Bortles on the hot seat in any way. But to me, it's more look. One thing you cannot argue about Bortles is his durability. So it's not so much to me what guy are you going to bring in, to compete with Bortles or to in case something happens. It's more like what are you looking at in the future? And to me, McCown, Fitzpatrick, they're not future quarterbacks. They're just guys, and that's what Henne is. He's a guy, and I know he and Blake work really well together. Blake is not threatened by him at all. I think Henne's more of almost a player coach for Bortles. So I would say if you're going to go the McCown or Fitzpatrick route, just stick with Henne and possibly draft a guy.
I mean, I think the interesting thing to me would be to maybe bring in somebody like Teddy Bridgewater. Is he going to be okay? Who knows? I think you get him for a severe discount. If he is, great. If not, maybe he's got more time to rehab because Blake is so healthy. He is so hardcore. He's not going to get hurt. You could let that guy kind of develop back and get his legs underneath him. That would be kind of cool to see. I don't know.
That's the other question, though, or the same question I just had was, if you let's say you bring in Teddy Bridgewater at that point in time, not that the coaching staff or anything looks at Blake any different as a starting quarterback, but if Blake has a game next season where he ends up throwing a red zone pick or something like that, does the fan base themselves, because there are still a lot of people that do not like Bortles, do you think they get all cranky and start calling for Bridgewater to go in?
Of course they do. I mean, that's what fans are for. I mean, they're hot and cold. I think they're gonna freak out on him when he plays bad and be happy when he plays good, and they're gonna call for whoever is second place. I mean, they call for Henne in the preseason. I mean, it's gonna happen regardless of who's there.
That's a good point.
If we're reading between the lines between what Marone, Coughlin, and Caldwell think, they just paid Blake on a contract extension. They have a history of keeping Henne on at a decent amount of money, so I don't think they're gonna be interested in the market of bringing in a developmental quarterback or bringing in. I think they just need someone that can hand the ball off to Fournette 38 times a game.
Yeah, exactly. And Bortles can do that.
All right. What about do any of these linebackers do anything for you? Brian Cushing. We talked about
Cushing does nothing for
Connor
me.
Barwin. I mean, because if Puz doesn't get re-signed, or there's Tahir Whitehead, who was with the Lions last year, who's a decent linebacker. Zach Brown with the Redskins. I mean, these guys could help. I mean, we've been through some linebackers. And I know we just signed Telvin, and Miles Jack is good, but we still need that third linebacker who can come in against the run and make tackles. So that's where a player like Brian Cushing may help you.
I think Brian Cushing doesn't do anything for me just because he played for the Texans. But so did Boye, but Cushing's different. I don't know. I guess if they brought him in, I'd be okay with it. But I don't know. I mean, to me, I'd almost rather them sign Paz but I think that's me thinking with my heart and not my head.
I think there's no way they don't re-sign him. I mean, as far as his leadership, again, if he doesn't have to play every play, I mean, who cares how old he is? He's still a stud. And again, he's a local guy.
Where do you get this local from? Why do you keep saying that?
What's the rule for Jack's local? I mean, you live here 10 years, you're good, right? I mean, come on.
I guess so.
And Blair Brown showed you a little something last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're comfortable with Blair Brown, I just don't know how comfortable I am with Blair Brown.
He played okay.
Yeah, I just would like to see a linebacker who can be a sure tackler. Because if we're not in nickel, this third linebacker's not even in the game. Doesn't matter. But when we're on first down or like 3rd and 1, You want someone who can tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the Whitehead pickup. I mean, just think if Telvin Smith ends up going out, or any number of them, just like he did last year. I mean, he's a solid dude to put in place for him to, like Jason was saying, making tackles. Just someone in place that's going to be a solid player for you at that point in time to add depth. That's probably not going to go for a lot of money either. And with the defense that we have, I mean, not that he's looking to come in at a discounted rate, but I mean, we have probably a solid chance to make at least a really deep playoff run next year. So, I mean, he could be looking at coming in for a decent price to come in and be like, hey, I'll go play with the number one defense next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting – I think of all the positions in free agency, that may be the one that actually gets looked at the most because they won't have to pay an arm and a leg for it. But, again, you're going to be able to get Paz really cheap as well. And he's already here. He's in the system. He loves Telvin. He's only playing, I don't know, however many times are not a nickel, which I would say is probably, we'll say half the game on defense. So
he's a good player too.
Yeah, he's a great player, and he's a team captain. So I say just bring him back at least for one more year. Give him a 1-year contract. See where you're at after that. Let Brown develop a little bit more, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I think it's going to be more depth signings than anything else. But we'll see. You never know. David Caldwell and TC, they've surprised us a little bit in their 1-year tenure together. So we'll see.
All right, that's going to wrap up our show for Another Jags podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter on Another Jags Pod. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Another Jags Podcast. So make sure you can check us out on iTunes, SoundCloud, or wherever you get your podcast information. Another Jags Podcast, and we will see you guys next week.